Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the unsolved cases of 4 soldiers from Fort Hood, Texas who died under very suspicious circumstances. Family of these victims believe that the Army investigators know more than they're telling, and so many of their questions still remain unanswered. While 2 of the cases have been closed, the other 2 remain under investigation. So the big question is, were the victims' deaths just unfortunate accidents or was foul play involved? So the first case I'm going to be talking about today is that of 19-year-old Dakota Lee Stump. Dakota disappeared from the Fort Hood base in Texas where he was stationed on October 10th of 2016. On the day of his disappearance, Dakota allegedly hung out with 2 fellow soldiers during a 4-hour refit after returning to the barracks from a 10-day field training on base. And during this refit, soldiers are allowed to return to the barracks to do their laundry, shower, and relax before returning back to the field. When questioned by investigators, the 2 soldiers claimed that all 3 of them had gone to the post exchange. And if you don't know what a post exchange is, it's pretty much a store on the military base that sells clothes, food, and other items that you may need. So these 2 soldiers claim that they went to the post exchange to buy a bottle of alcohol, and when asked what type of alcohol they purchased, each of their answers varied. One of the soldiers also claimed that Dakota asked the soldier who was purchasing the alcohol to pull out $20 to $40 from his debit card, but when Dakota's bank statements were reviewed, it showed that $80 were pulled from the account that night. So since the beginning, they weren't being completely honest. And during their time hanging out, a Snapchat video was posted on Dakota's story, which appears to be taken from the driver's seat of Dakota's car. And it shows someone in the back seat, but Dakota is never seen or heard in the video. Now, according to the soldiers, they allegedly went back to the barracks where they played video games. It was also stated that Dakota had been doing laundry, then later took 3 shots of alcohol before returning to the field. The destination he was heading to was only a 2-minute drive from the barracks. Dakota was supposed to be back at the field by 9:50 p.m. that night, and at 9:42, phone records show that he received a call from his platoon sergeant. Now, according to Dakota's mom, he had recently been in some type of altercation with his sergeant because Dakota had questioned his authority, and it even became a little bit physical. Patrice, Dakota's mom, says her son was the type of person to speak up if something wasn't right, so maybe Dakota said something to piss off his sergeant. So Dakota's mother, Patrice, had confronted the sergeant about his phone call to Dakota, and he claims it was a very short conversation, but later changes his story. He then claimed that he had a missed call from Dakota and called him back, but when the phone was answered, he didn't hear anyone on the phone. Patrice later finds out that the sergeant told CAD a different story, so the sergeant has now given 3 different accounts about that phone call. Dakota's mom, of course, became very suspicious of the inconsistent statements, so she asked Army officials to check surveillance cameras. And when asked, Army officials claimed that it would cost too much time and money. But later, officials said that they actually have no cameras in the area where Dakota was exiting from. So they decided to ping his phone, and according to Army officials, his location indicated that he was in Indiana, but later turns out to have been a mistake. Another weird thing that occurred was that 2 days after Dakota's disappearance, his Facebook Messenger app was uninstalled from his phone. Later during the investigation, Dakota's mom decided to hire a private investigator. This private investigator sent a link to Dakota's email explaining who she was and informed him that his mother was very worried for him. She also said in the email, "If you open this email, I will know when you do." So on October 27th of 2016, it was discovered that the email was opened twice, once at 3:26 p.m. and then again at 4:40 p.m. So somebody clearly opened that email, but to this day, nobody knows who opened it. So a few days later, on November 3rd of 2016, Dakota's remains were discovered near the base in Texas. Dakota's family was in complete shock when they found out that their son had been in Texas the entire time, and it raised even more suspicion. Like, how did nobody come across his body for almost 4 weeks? That is just crazy. So Dakota's remains were found next to his flipped over vehicle, and when his family had learned this information, they immediately went to the site where they had supposedly found his car flipped over, but according to them, they saw no skid marks on the road or any indication that there had ever even been an accident. Another thing to mention is that after his remains had been recovered, Dakota was of course laid to rest, but it wasn't until after the funeral that his parents received all all the investigation paperwork and realized that there was no proof or any paperwork stating that a DNA test was ever even conducted. I don't even think that the family ever received any pictures from the crime scene. So many details about the case don't even add up, and I really feel for his family. It definitely seems that there was something that they were trying to hide. So because of that, Dakota's family now questions everything that they've ever been told by the Army investigators. They even wonder if it was really their son who they buried. Dakota's mother mentioned that she was even thinking about having his remains exhumed so they can get retested. As of now, Dakota's case remains closed, but his family is still seeking answers. They have also started a petition pushing for a legislation called Dakota's Law to change how the military handles missing persons cases so no family ever has to go through what they've gone through. I'll try and find that petition and link it down below if you guys are interested in helping his family out. But that is it for case number 1, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next case we're going to be talking about is that of 21-year-old Private Paige Briles, and it actually happened not long after Dakota Stump was found. Paige was found unresponsive in her vehicle at Fort Hood Housing in Texas on Christmas Eve, December 24th of 2016. So Private Paige Briles is from Kaplan, Louisiana, and she joined the U.S. Army in February of 2015. Later, she was permanently assigned to Fort Hood as a wheeled vehicle mechanic after advanced individual training. Paige shared with her family that she was raped by her recruiter before she went to Fort Jackson for basic training, but she didn't report the incident. Paige deployed to Kuwait shortly after completing her training. She returned stateside early in December of 2015 after she was injured in the line of duty. And the only thing she shared with her family was that she saw things no one should ever have to see. So I really wonder what she meant by that, or what she could have possibly have seen. In November of 2016, she was assigned to the Warrior Transition Unit at Carl R. Darnell Army Medical Center and was supposed to be discharged from the Army in February of 2017. It has also been said by family that she had plans to attend dental hygienist school. So moving forward, on Christmas Eve, December 24th of 2016, Paige drove to a friend's house on post. She was house sitting for them while they were out of town. Paige had posted a picture of herself on Snapchat and sent it to her contacts. She wrote, "Here's to another Christmas alone." About 30 minutes later, Paige was found unresponsive in the driver's seat in her vehicle in the parking lot outside of her friend's home. Army officials discovered that she had been stabbed. The Army Criminal Investigation Division ruled the cause of death as suicide. And something else very important that I forgot to mention was that Paige had put in a leave request to go home for Christmas in December of 2016, but it was denied. I honestly find it really difficult to believe that Paige would cause her own death. I mean, nobody just commits suicide by stabbing themselves. And Paige's parents feel the same way. They want their daughter's case investigated as a homicide. They even provided the Army CID with the person of interest. They had interaction and negative experiences with the person of interest. They shared their first-hand interactions and their concerns with CID, but felt their experiences and observations were dismissed. They know their daughter was not suicidal because she was due to get out of the Army in February of 2017 and she had plans. When questioned if the Army CID ever investigated the person of interest, Paige's family responded with, "The Army CID never investigated any persons of interest. As a matter of fact, the Army discharged the soldier these parents suspected was the person of interest." So when the Army discharges a soldier who may be a person of interest, they in effect give up jurisdiction of the soldier once they become a civilian unless they are retired. And the soldier who was considered a person of interest by the family was discharged for disciplinary reasons. The parents report that initially Paige's stabbing was investigated as a homicide, yet in the end, despite the autopsy, forensics, suspicious circumstances in her life, and the parents' testimony, Paige's death was ruled as a suicide by the Army CID. And once a death is ruled a suicide, the investigation is over and the U.S. Army never has to investigate again. So as of now, Paige's case is unsolved and remains closed. I also wasn't able to find more information on the case as of recently, and I also tried finding links to any petitions for Paige but couldn't find anything, so that is it for this case. So the third case we're going to be talking about now is a recent case. It is that of Private Gregory Morales, a soldier who went missing from Fort Hood Base in Texas in August of 2019. Foul play is believed to have played a role in the death of Gregory Morales, whose skeletal remains were found near the Army base on Friday, June 19th of 2020. Gregory Wedel Morales was 23 years old at the time of his disappearance and was born and raised in Oklahoma. Gregory decided to join the Army in 2015 as a motor transport operator and had been assigned to the 1st Sustainment Brigade, 1st Cavalry Division since November of 2016, according to Army officials. Throughout his time in the military, Gregory had earned multiple Army Achievement Medals. He earned the Army Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Army Service Ribbon, and the list went on. Gregory's mother, Kim Wedel, says she had just spoken to Gregory a few days before he went missing, and they had talked about his future plans. She also emphasized it wasn't like him to just get up and leave. As a matter of fact, Gregory was supposed to be discharged from the Army on September 10th of 2019. Gregory was last seen driving his 2018 black Kia Rio outside of the Army post on August 19th of 2019. Gregory was never seen or heard from again for almost 10 months until his remains were discovered around 9 a.m. Friday, June 19th of 2020. Killeen police say Fort Hood officials notified them about a tip about a body in a field near the block of Florence Road in Killeen. Gregory's remains were later positively identified using dental records with the assistance of the U.S. Army Dental Corps. And when Gregory had first gone missing, the Army declared him AWOL, then listed him as a deserter about a month later, and because of his deserter status, he was unable to receive a military funeral. As of now, his cause of death remains unknown. I believe his autopsy is still pending. Gregory's family is now seeking help from Congressman John Carter to demand a congressional investigation as well as clearing his name. His family is also asking for the Army to be held accountable in his disappearance and his death. A petition for Gregory Wedel Morales titled "Hold the U.S. Army Accountable" has been created by the Fort Hood soldiers' family. The petition is asking for people to help the family raise awareness for Gregory and demand justice on his behalf. So if you guys would like to help his family, I'll link the petition down below, and you guys can also help by sharing the petition as well. But that's all the information I could find on this case, so let's go ahead and move on to the last one. Alright, so the final case we're going to be talking about is another recent case that happened in May of 2020, right before Gregory Morales' remains were found. It is the unsolved murder of Brandon Scott Rosecrans, a 27-year-old private first-class soldier stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. Brandon Rosecrans was from Kimberling City, Missouri, and entered the Army in May of 2018 as a quartermaster and chemical equipment repairer. He had been assigned to the 3rd Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Cavalry Division since November of 2018. During his time in the military, Brandon had earned a few awards that include the Army Service Ribbon and National Defense Service Medal. Parents of Brandon, Thomas and Christy Berg, described Brandon as a fun person. As a child, Brandon was always running around and always wanting to do fun things. Thomas, Brandon's father, says one of their proudest moments was the day they found out Brandon wanted to join the Army. Having dealt with ADD and ADHD growing up, they say he graduated from boot camp a changed man. His parents also described him to be a gentleman. Thomas said he always spoke to people, Mr. Tom or Mrs. Betty or what have you, but when he came out of the Army, he knew what side to walk on for a woman. His parents also said that he knew how to address a person, he knew how to handle conversations, and it seemed that the ADD just slipped away. So on May 18th of 2020, Brandon Rosecrans was found dead in Killeen, Texas with an apparent gunshot wound. About 48 hours after Brandon was shot to death, 9 hours away from home, his parents Thomas and Christy were outside their home when they met 2 men in uniform who wanted to speak to them. The Bergs were notified that Brandon's Jeep was found on a fire in a different location than his body just 4 days before his 28th birthday, and that was the only information that was made available to them. As of now, the case remains under investigation. Brandon was laid to rest on Tuesday, June 2nd of 2020 at the Baptist Church of Kimberling City, followed by full military honors upon burial at Philibert Cemetery. Brandon's parents say they want to see their son's killer get caught. And the department is asking anyone with information to contact the Harker Heights Police Criminal Investigation Division. So I really hope someone comes forward so his family can get more answers and find out who killed him. Although there wasn't a lot of information about the case, it's clear that someone wanted him dead. So the big question is, was it someone from the base or was it just a random killing? But I'll be following this story very closely, and when I have more updates on the case, I'll definitely share it with you guys. I really hope that all the families of the 4 victims can get answers, because there's definitely something going on at Fort Hood base. It's starting to become more frequent as well as violent, and if you notice, there has been a pattern of soldiers dying right before being discharged or for speaking up about something. But whatever is going on, it's definitely starting to catch people's attention, and people are definitely starting to see the lies and corruption going on. So let me know what you guys think about the cases. Were they just accidents or military cover-ups? And before closing out today's video, I'd like to mention that I'm going to link some of the petitions I found for the victims if you guys would like to help. But that is it for me today. If you guys enjoyed today's video, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.